The university anthem. Thank you very much. Please, we may be seated. Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, the founder, Elizade University, Your Excellency, former Governor of Ondo State, Your Excellency, the Governor of Ondo State, our royal fathers here, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, the Vice-Chancellor of this great university, the members of the Governing Council of this very prestigious university, the principal officers of this great citadel of learning, the provost of our colleges and deans of faculties, the heads of departments and unit, my colleague, the gentlemen of the press, especially invited guests for today's occasion, students of great Elizade University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today is no doubt a very special day, as the Lord has spared our lives to witness yet another milestone in the history of this very special university, established by a renowned industrialist, a humanist par excellence, and by the grace of God, a man I've found 1,000 times inspiring. You all will agree with me that it has taken the grace of God that we are alive today, and nothing has made us to postpone or cancel this occasion. To God be the glory. Permit me to obey the dictates of protocol here today as I go to the second item of the program I have here. Today, Thursday, the 20th day in the month of October, the year of the Lord 2022. Permit me to introduce to you the man you all know, an enigma in his own right, a great Nigerian of Ilara Moken extraction, who by the grace of God is the continental personality. I'm talking of the founder, Elizade University, of alumnus of University of Nigeria in Nsukka, a greater alumnus of the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Africa's most beautiful campus, west of Sahara, north of Limpopo. Chief Doctor, Michael Adeojo. Thank you very much. Maybe I should say that that applause is for me. Let me see that of Daddy. Thank you very much. He's not here alone, because I'm told and I know, in front and at the back, by the signs of every successful man, there must be a woman. Of course, I have here the Managing Director, Elizade Nigeria Limited, a very strong and supportive partner, the wife of our founder, Mrs. Taiwo Adeojo. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please, you will permit me to just anchor this program the way it comes to my mind. And I'm not being emotional about it. To the glory of God Almighty that is also seated on this side of the hall, a man found worthy in learning and character, who got a medical degree from the prestigious University of Ife, now OAU, who successfully steered the affairs of Ondo State for 8 consecutive years. I'm talking of Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I was initially mistaking somebody for somebody else. But now when they are now seated, I now see the difference. And the difference is not that clear. Because in mental sagacity, in beauty and behavioral excellence, they are one and the same. But let me introduce to us today Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, a woman of substance, a jewel of international standing, beautiful, attractive, diligent, and decent. Her Excellency, Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Holland Taylor. We can do much better for her. Standing is Liberia as a republic. Your Excellency, thank you very much. You may be seated. You look like the wife of Baba. The two of you are beautiful. She's your twin sister. Thank you very much, ma. Please put hands together for the two women here. All courtesy is still extended here. Permit me to introduce to us a very senior academic, a man the Lord has saddled with so many responsibilities and is doing it with cheerfulness. A former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, a former Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of Tai Sholana University of Education, Ijagun in Ogun State. By the grace of God here, also the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council. And I know it is the practical definition of, if you are diligent in your duties, you'll be saddled with more additional responsibility. It's not here alone, looking ageless in this attire. Professor Olufemi Bamiro. Mommy, where are you? Emeritus Professor Olufemi Bamiro. Where's Mommy? Now, student of English language, the feminine version of emeritus is emerita. Thank you very much, sir. I take that, sir. Unto whom the cap fits, let him put it on. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this university has been going on very smoothly. Nothing negative has happened and it will not happen in Jesus' name. Sallu ala nabiyina kareem. I have here I want to introduce to us somebody who combines academic excellence with superlative fatherly disposition. The Vice Chancellor of Elizade University, Professor Kayode Admond. Thank you very much. English language is very simple and straightforward. What is the meaning of comfort? Somebody that makes you happy. Somebody that makes you relax, just like Daddy is relaxing now. Mommy, Comfort Admond, where are you? The wife of the Vice Chancellor. The Bible says, comfort ye my people. But you limited it to the Vice Chancellor. Put your hands together for Mommy. Please, you will permit me to be doing this introduction in phases, but I'll crave indulgence that I introduce to us the members of the Governing Council of this prestigious university. We have in the house Mr. Raphael Abiodun Aladeyimi, Aladetimi. Thank you very much, sir. Also in the house here, Mr. Bode Adediji. And of course, Yoruba will say, Ibe gbogbo nile owo. I don't know how Daddy will take that. This is Ilana mocking. But they said Ibe gbogbo nile owo. There is somebody here, I know him inside out. He will not take a dime from the university. He would rather spend his money to do PR for people. And when you ask him, why are you doing this? He said, oh, Biodun. This person is a polyglot. He speaks Yoruba language, he speaks English language, and he speaks our language. Professor Yutopo Ogunmodede, the Vice Chancellor, former Vice Chancellor of Bafimolo University, Mayfair. Well done, sir. Sir, stand up again. Take a bow. It's good to hold microphone. My organic, well, I can use this one. I can intimidate him with this one. I have the backing of Daddy. And of course, we have a member of the Board of Trustees, Chief Samuel Bolaninde. Daddy, where are you? Thank you very much, sir. Please permit me to do full introduction here for the principal officers of the university. We have somebody, my mentor, and I want to say loud and clear, divine intervention made the registrar of this university to be who he is today. I'm aware when he will be traveling all the way from Akure to this place, supervising every project. Egmon, you will live long. The registrar, Omolulu Adebenro. So passionate about this university. And Babani, Isha Babani. Sorry, I'm sorry. The boss is here, the Minister for Finance of this university, Mr. Olusegun Ajayibe. You are indeed into your profession, sir. You bear Ajayibe and you are a bosser. That's interesting. The university librarian is here, Dr. Christopher Inkiko. Okay. We have the deans of our faculties here. Professor Joseph Ademola Fabayo. We have Professor Francis Bode Ashubudu. We have Professor Toji Oyelade. We also have Professor Olusheye Adeleke. And of course, a motherly administrator, motherly in all areas, Dr. Dupe Abolade. Yes, thank you very much. We have here the representative of the governor, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Odunayo Akeredolu, ably represented by Professor Olufemi Agagu, Honorable Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Ondo State. Okay. So, sorry, Pastor Olufemi Agagu, Pastor. Praise the Lord. We have Professor Alex Tokumbo Adaja representing the Vice Chancellor, Joseph Ayobabala University, Ikejara Keji. We have Mr. Christian Ekwena, State Manager, Bank of Industry Limited, Ondo State. Please, let's put our hands together for him. We have, my Lord, the Methodist Lord Bishop of the Diocese of Akure, Right Reverend Isaac Bola Ogunjuyigbe. Oshun, sorry. We have Professor Raphael Igbenoza Adegbe, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Igbenedo University of Okada. Where are you, sir? Please, let's put hands together for him. I have Chief Joseph Adesanya Onyesan. Please, let's appreciate his presence here. I have please, you will permit me to introduce these few names, but then we'll go straight to the next item. We have Professor Benga Amo of the Civil Engineering. Where are you? Please stand for recognition. Professor Tunde Adeyemo, Professor Kainde Oshotimeyin, and of course, I have our royal fathers. Please, I want to crave your indulgence. And I stand under the authority of the founder of this university, my Baba, Chief Dr. Michael Adeojo. Please, the next personalities I want to introduce, as you are standing for learning, they represent our tradition and culture. You don't clap for royal fathers, you stand up and say Kabisi. I want to introduce our father here. His Majesty Alara of Ilara Mokin, Oba Abiodun Aderemi Adefeinti, Agbekorun the second. Kabiyesi o. Please, for the sake of this gathering, my name is Abiodun Olarewaju, but don't call me Biodun so that Kabiyesi will not think you are the one calling him. Because Kabiyesi also bears Biodun, so as Kabiyesi you call him Kabiyesi, but you can call me Chief for this program. And I also have yet my father here, another royal father, His Majesty, the Aswada of Iswada land, Oba Alailuwa Joel Oluwafemi Adelumeye II. Kábíyèsí o. Yes, please permit me to appreciate the presence of Bashono Sende Arugbofa, OFR. Honorable Joseph Akinlaja. Please, let's put hands together for them. Chief Femi Aluko. Oh, Mommy, your name is still here. Chief Saya Ogunsan. Oyesan. Sorry, is a medical handwriting here. Professor Sunday Robert Ogunduile. Former Vice Chancellor. Former Vice Chancellor University of Science and Technology, Okitikopa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. My name is Abiodun Olarewaju. Let me see your reactions to that. Humbly, I want to invite the Vice Chancellor of this prestigious university to formally welcome all of us here to his domain. The Vice Chancellor, sir. Please hold it. I have my fathers here, and I have the founder of the university, and Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. There is no law, edict, or decree in Ondo State that says you should not clap in the afternoon. Give it once again to the Vice Chancellor.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Republic of Liberia, who incidentally is a convocation lecturer of today, Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor. Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, SAN, ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Pastor Femi Agagu. Your Excellency, the immediate past Executive Governor of Ondo State, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, CON, and Chairman of this occasion. Other Excellencies in attendance. The Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, Professor Abubakar Rashid. The Founder, Visitor, and Chairman Board of Trustees, Elizade University, Sir Chief Dr. Michael Adeojo, DBM, DBA, OON, and Knight of John Wesley. The Chancellor, Elizade University, Dr. Gbenga Oyibo, DMFR, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council, Professor, Emeritus Professor Olufemi Bamiro, my immediate boss, FAS, FANG. Pro-Chancellors and Vice-Chancellors of other universities here present, members of the Board of Trustees and Governing Council here present, principal officers of the university, our royal fathers. Let me recognize our landlord, Oba Abiodun Aderemi Adefenti Agbekorun II, Alara Filara. And sitting close to him is Oba Joel Oluwafemi Adeluwaye. My lords, spiritual and temporal, let me recognize the Lord Bishop of Akure Diocese, Methodist Church, Nigeria, Right Reverend Bola Oshunju Igwe, and the chaplain of Elizade University, Reverend Olufemi. And my Lord Temporal, let me recognize Justice Folashade Aguda Taiwo. Deans of faculties, School of Postgraduate Studies and Student Affairs, members of Senate, members of staff and students of Elizade University, gentlemen of the press, print and electronic, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the 20th day of October 2022, marks another milestone in the annals of university education, as Elizade University blazes the trail in stature and eminence, as epitomized by the quality and caliber of this assembly, as we kickstart the events of the 6th and 7th convocation ceremonies with this convocation lecture. On behalf of the founder, the Board of Trustees, and the Governing Council, it is my pleasure to welcome the immediate past governor of Ondo State, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, who consented to serve as the chairman of this occasion. I also wish to welcome both to Nigeria and to Elizade University the convocation lecturer in the person of Her Excellency, the Vice President of Liberia, Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor. Permit me to also welcome the Executive Governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu SAN, ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Pastor Femi Agagu, for hosting our eminent personalities in his domain. Our chairman of today, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, is a man of many colors, an orator par excellence, an astute politician, a man of excellence and impeccable character, a product of the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, called Oba Awon University. That's Ife of Lagos. A former commissioner for health in Ondo State, and former secretary to the state government, and former minister of works and housing in Nigeria. It is a special privilege to have him here today as chairman of this convocation lecture. You're welcome, sir. Our guest lecturer, whose citation will be properly presented shortly, is the Jewel of Africa and the Vice President, Republic of Liberia, Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor, who incidentally is a legal luminary and a most respected politician in the African space, owing to her activism and the defense of human rights. She is an inspiration to girls and women in Africa for a host of reasons. One, she is an example of an ordinary girl who worked her way, by God's grace, from a simple bank officer to become the first female vice president of Liberia. Two, she continues to give back to the society through her various humanitarian endeavors to women and girls, similar to Oprah Winfrey. Three, she continues to inspire women and girls by being a positive role model and motivational speaker. Four, she is God-fearing and humble and a worker in Christ's vineyard. Five, she's not only concerned about issues affecting women and girls, she intervenes and makes a difference. Six, she is a leader who invests in the next generation and inspires them to be the best they can be. Seven, she truly cares. And eight, her life is a living miracle proving that all things are possible if you believe. All these unique attributes and accolades have made the Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor a truly adorable jewel of Africa and quintessential leader. Today's audience is bound to be thrilled by this convocation lecture titled African Renaissance, Key for New Global Leadership Paradigm. However, it is pertinent that I whet your appetite with some remarks on this interesting topic to be delivered by our guest lecturer to elicit your interest and attention. Africa, we know, is often referred to as the dark continent, and the continent is at a crossroad. Having been at the back end of development, without being able to play a frontal role on the world stage, due to a long history of colonialism and Cold War democracy being practiced in many African states. The continent is therefore bedeviled by myriads of challenges, which among others may include the following: poor leadership ethics and lack of good governance, youth unemployment and poverty, knowledge gap, an unsavory leadership culture, as most African countries are dominated by very old leaders as presidents and cabinet members. What a pity. 4, lack of succession plan in leadership and sit-tight syndrome. And lastly, inadequate investment in education. African Renaissance, therefore, refers to continental rebirth with renewed interest to improve and build on the current ideas or thoughts to improve life on the continent. We had a taste of African Renaissance when some African leaders fought European domination and subjugation of Africa. Such leaders included Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Sadana of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello, all of Nigeria, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Nelson Mandela of South Africa. So, the concept of Renaissance is still relevant to the 21st century African continent. And this implies that a new generation of leaders must evolve who are capable of facing up to the myriads of challenges, promoting a culture of democracy, human rights, peace, and freedom, which are sine qua non for sustainable development. It will be a false paradigm or delusion to expect leaders of other continents to come and develop Africa. The solution to African challenges must therefore be in the premise of African leaders, with education, the bedrock of development, as top priority. Elizade University is therefore at the vanguard to present a platform for the education of Nigerian youths, and by extension, the African youths, on whose shoulders the future of the continent lies. The immediate task of African leadership is to restore hope and pull our people out of the pit in which they have found themselves. They must rescue the people from the ravages of military dictatorship and from the ruling clique. The search for leadership in Africa within the global context is a search for social justice by giving each person or group what is his or her due on the basis of equal consideration. So the main key for a new global leadership paradigm, in my opinion, is equity and justice, without which peace may be elusive. Your Excellencies, My lords, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Elizade University, and I thank you profusely for being here today to participate at today's convocation lecture. God bless you richly. Thank you.
The Vice Chancellor. Please, let's appreciate him one more time. We thank God for your time, sir. And we pray the Lord will spare your life more to assist the educational development of our country, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to do this introduction. As I said earlier, that I'll be doing the introduction in phases. We have one of the members of the Governing Council here, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi. Mommy, please welcome. A member of the Governing Council. And of course, former Chief of Staff to the former Governor of Ondo State, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko is here. Dr. Kola Ademujimi. Where are you, sir? Oh, thank you very much. And of course, my brother, my friend is here. A former student activist, a sound and diligent journalist, a Chief Press Secretary to His Excellency Olusegun Mimiko, Ene Akinshola. I humbly call on somebody found worthy in learning and character to have the degree of prestigious University of Ife, who by the grace of God is the chairman of today's occasion. Your Excellency, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, immediate past governor of Ondo State.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Honorable Mrs. Joel Huatilo, I pay my respects to the visitor of this great university, our own Chief Michael Adeojo, and to her consort, the Managing Director of Elizade Nigeria Limited, Mr. Vice Chancellor, Registrar. Permit me also to specially recognize the representative of the Governor of Ondo State, Arakuni Akeredolu, ably represented by my brother, Honorable Commissioner for Education, Pastor Professor Femi Agagu. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me just to adopt the protocol ably established by the Vice Chancellor. But I must also salute the Adara of Ilara Moki, Kabiesi. Thank you, sir, for what you have always been. And I recognize these special students of this great university. Let me start by thanking Elizade University for inviting me to chair the 6th and 7th joint convocation lecture. I am and have always been proud to associate with this university, which by His grace was founded during my tenure here as governor of this state. At that time, I had a lot of interaction with the proprietor, the visitor, Chief Michael Adeojo, which gave me an insight into his vision and how he hoped to go about actualizing it. Sir, that little acorn you planted about 10 years ago has become a great oak tree. A great Iroko tree of reckoning. A university with such a beautiful, serene environment that has all its courses fully accredited. A university that bears the mark of excellence that defines the Adeojo excellence. Sir, some may still see you as Mr. Toyota, but in the years to come, this university will be your defining legacy. It will be the real Adeojo legacy. You have impacted the international business scene. You have impacted your country, Nigeria. You brought Toyota into Nigeria as a household brand. You have impacted Ondo State, being one of the leading investors and philanthropists that we have here. You have impacted Ilara Mokin, transforming it from, with due respect, a little known community, and giving it a place in the global map of leisure and learning. It is often said that a tree does not make a forest. But I dare say that for your ancient community and this land of your fathers, you are indeed the closest thing to a tree that makes a forest. Today's lecture is focused on African Renaissance, keys for new global leadership paradigm, which I consider particularly apt for a university with a vision and desire, quote, to be a globally competitive institution that produces entrepreneurial, innovative, and ethical graduates. The topic couldn't have been better chosen. You have also chosen as your convocation lecturer Her Excellency Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howatilo, someone coming with vast national experience in times of war and peace, and a veritable global player, former First Lady and currently the Vice President, first female Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, to do justice to this topic. You are welcome again to the statement. We eagerly await to learn from Your Excellency and share perspectives. But permit me, in the meantime, to make a few remarks as, again, an appetizer of sorts, I hope. For South African President Thabo Mbeki, who perhaps more than any other in contemporary times imbued the concept of African Renaissance with the high status it approximates today, the concept is about, quote, a journey of self-discovery and the restoration of the African self-esteem. It is thus synonymous with renewal, as the Vice Chancellor said earlier on, rebirth, restoration. The question that arises is, why do we need renewal? Where exactly are we coming from? What is the current situation that deserves to be renewed? What is the direction of renewal needful for the peoples of Africa? What strategies and tools do we need to get to this critical end stage? Are we as a people truly on the path to that glorious end? Perhaps the most significant part of where we are coming from, in relation to our present challenges of mass poverty, internecine wars, and leadership failure, is the 4 centuries of slavery that Africa suffered from. As Nathan Nunn, a Harvard Professor of Economics, puts it, the evidence accumulated suggests that this historic event played an important part in the shaping of the continent, in terms not only of economic outcomes, but cultural and social outcomes. He goes on to state that slavery for the people of Africa affected a whole range of important outcomes, including economic prosperity, ethnic diversity. Remember, people just sat at a table in Berlin and just created those in line with their own economic convenience. Ethnic diversity, institutional quality, and other issues, even prevalence of HIV/AIDS and all of that, even including the practice of polygamy. Very good study where he proved the nexus between slavery and prevalent polygamy in Africa today. He concludes that the slave trade appears to have played an important role in shaping the fabric of the African society. Slavery, you know, was followed by another whole century of colonialism. Then post-colonialism, post-Cold War politics until we get to the contemporary times. But it's important for us to know as Africans that the focus of the slave trader, the colonizer, and the mandarins of neocolonialism remains the same. It is the exploitation of African resources for their own end. It is mind-boggling, the magnitude of the despoilation of Africa, that what we went through in those 5 centuries. Small wonder the continent is presently at the bottom of every human development index. We have the lowest life expectancy. The chances that a woman will die in pregnancy is highest in Africa. The chances that a child will die before the age of 5 is present in Africa. Even climate change, to which we have not contributed much, the impact is felt most in Africa. Those who despoiled the ecosystem are not the ones having the biggest impact of climate change. Everything negative, everything is here in Africa. Perhaps the most depressing phenomenon and the ugliest side of this century has been the desperation of young Africans, either in Africa or Africans in South America or Caribbean, in dingy boats in the Atlantic, or dangerous journeys across the desert, trying to get into Europe or America. Voluntary slavery. I'm sure those of you read Alex Haley, Kunta Kinte, The Roots. Kunta Kinte was forced out of Africa, like the buffalo soldier of Bob Marley. He fought to escape. But nowadays, if our people get visa to come and be slaves in America, they will go and testify in church. That's the extent to which we have gone. And the sad thing is that many of those immigrating are professionals, further depleting the African landscape of the much needed human capital. When it was muscular and physical energy that they needed for development, they took it from Africa. Now when it is cerebral power, they're also taking everything from Africa. Are we a cursed continent? Without doubt, many of the emigres are products of failed and failing states. And the Vice Chancellor elaborated on that. Of many years of economic exploitation, bad leadership. And they say climate change. A new global paradigm means there's an existing paradigm that needs to be changed, or that must change in the manner in which we want. Like Ngugu Alfiongo puts it, it's characterized by the remembering that which had earlier suffered disremembering. Remembering that which has suffered disremembering. But Marley says, if you don't know where you're coming from, you'll never really know where you're going. This is the essence of the African Renaissance, a philosophy worthy of embrace by all Africans as individuals and corporate bodies. It is a part of history that Africans, and then listen to this, it is a part of history that Africans built and once inhabited great empires. They tell you we have no history. Our history predates slavery. We once inhabited great empires. The great empires of West Africa, Ghana, Mali, Songhai, they were washed in gold, which they traded, as at that time with people across Sahara, along the Great Silk Road as far as to China. There's a new book that I will recommend to anybody that has time to read. It's called The Review of Born. The book is called Born in Blackness. It traces how the wealth of Africa developed the civilization that we know today in Europe and America. That without the wealth of Africa, the gold of Africa, a continent that they said had no history. But they knew that it could transverse. They had the reputation of Ghana as a Gold Coast. Mansa Musa, the man recorded to be the wealthiest man that ever lived. In today's currency, Mansa Musa was wealthier than Bill Gates, was wealthier than the Army's man. As a matter of fact, it estimated that Mansa Musa in today's currency would be worth $100 billion. It was an African. That was part of our glorious past. Don't forget that we gave in science, mathematics. We contributed a lot. Even in humanities, sir. Don't forget, jazz music, blues came from Africa. And today, African diaspora continue to excel and contribute significantly to the wealth and leadership in the West. It must be acknowledged, therefore, that leadership, unfortunately, it is now leadership in science and technology and subsequently wealth that have bestowed on the West global leadership. Albeit that is now being credibly contested by China. But for now, the global paradigm of leadership is resident in the West or in the North, as it call it in development literature. And of course, that also includes critical areas of cultural hegemony. That is why you see some of our most talented artists put on rags, because it is the dominant economic power that becomes the dominant cultural power. That is why we are dominated culturally. For African Renaissance, as the basis of a new global leadership paradigm to be meaningful, we must liberate ourselves from mental slavery. Bob Marley says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Only Bible hands can free our minds. Have no fear for the West. We must liberate ourselves from mental slavery. Why, for instance, ladies and gentlemen, do Nigerian presidential candidates move abroad at the drop of a hat as if Nigeria is a vassal state? There must be a resurgimento, as it were, of mental dignity and confidence in the African. 400 years of slavery has done its damage to our psyche, whether we accept it or not. The challenge for research and scholars and for academia is to figure out how the black man can go through a resurgimento of mental confidence. Your Excellency, permit me just to say, give me a tip. When you diagnose, you must, my own idea about the African state, for us to get out of the crisis we are, and just summarize, we must drive development via an aggressive, improved productive capacity. This is development that is anchored on human skills, including an aggressive industrial policy aligned with appropriate financial framework. Not financial institutions that will be declaring profit, Q1, billions of naira, when there's no production going on in our economy. We must align our aggressive industrial policy with a financial framework if we must move forward. But ladies and gentlemen, how do you sincerely develop improved productive capacity, in which human skill is central, if your universities are closed for upwards 8 months? I was trying to prepare a lecture today that I'm giving somewhere in Lagos on Tuesday. Then it just occurred to me, if education is an investment, sir, and it's an investment, long-term investment, so we expect dividends. So these 8 months, they have deprived us of dividends. We must ask from the federal government our dividends for those 8 months that they wasted of our life. Africa must tackle Africa must tackle gender inequality. Africa must tackle gender inequality. The work of two good heads will never be better, definitely be better than the work of even the best of one head. And we must control what I call our procreative proclivity. Our procreative proclivity, where a member of the National Assembly will stand up and say, on behalf of my 38 wives and 40-something children, we're in a jungle. And as leadership, if Africa must progress, we must reimagine itself in international institutions within the present global order. Whether you like it, is it IMF? Is it UN? Is it WHO? They will tell you about rule-based world order. It is structured to perpetually limit our competitiveness as Africans. We must look at those treaties that we have signed and re-examine them. It's impossible. The way the world order is created today, it's impossible for you to get the best of Africa. It's not possible. I'll give you an example. I'm sorry, sir. I'm just thinking. When you talk of trade liberalization, I say those who are these dogmas of neoliberalism say we must allow movement of goods and property around something that is the dictate of market, but they don't allow the movement of labor, because if they allow it, they know we will 1 million Nigerians will go in there in one day. But you allow movement of, I say it is like textile used to be the biggest employer of labor in this place. But they say, let's open our borders. That's neoliberal. We have signed treaties. What happened? We could not compete with textile from Europe and from Asia. When they were growing up, they controlled movement into there something through tariffs. When India was competing with UK, with Britain those days in weaving, where we were challenging them, you know what they did? If you offended the colonial masters in India, they will cut your thumb so as to limit your capacity to weave. That was the extent to which they went to protect their own industry. And they said we must open our own up so that the jackals can come and eat us up. We must rethink all of this if we must develop. We don't do it, we're not going nowhere. We are not going nowhere, no matter what we sing every day. At best, we will continue to torture statistics to convince ourselves that we are developing. We're going nowhere. There's an obvious need for a new Pan-Africanism that will realistically address the issues of conflict in this continent. Issues of conflict. The way we were created. They just sat down, 1884, 85, just two kings, and then they brought us, said they just, that is why in Nigeria, they don't care. You have Yoruba people in Nigeria, some in Benin Republic. You go to Central Africa, Horn of Africa, all the crises, Tutsi, all of that is related to the way we were created, without consideration for our ethnic harmony in Africa. We must rethink all of this. Africa economic and political liberation and integration must be deepened in consonance with AOU Agenda 2063. As we try to do this, we must be smart enough to appreciate what we are up against. What we are up against. I'm quoting Eric Reinhardt in his very seminal work of how poor countries will forever remain poor. And I quote, instead of experiencing the needed regional integration, Africa is being economically carved up today as it was politically carved up by the European power during 1884-85 Berlin Conference. They will invite people to Tokyo now. They say Japanese African Trade Mission. They will invite us to Russia. They will invite us to China. It's all about Inkontoma Genonwa. We must be smart and shine our eyes. The big question is, are we as Africans now well primed enough to take on this challenge with a view to delivering the promise of our African Renaissance? These are just some of the dimensions to the subject of African Renaissance and a new leadership paradigm on this much abused continent of ours. I don't want one to have any doubt in my mind whatsoever that our convocation lecturer possesses the requisite intellectual and professional pedigree to scintillate us and set us at a point of inflection on the condition of the African today and what needs to be done to enhance it moving forward. Once again, the visitor, we thank you. God bless you for what you have done here and what you will yet do. Permit me to humbly welcome Her Excellency, Dr. Joel Howard Taylor, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, to Elizade University, to Ondo State. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Please, we can do much better for him. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Your Excellency, I'm happy you are here today. I'm sorry I have to say this. The authorities of Elizade University have succeeded in giving us 2 lectures instead of 1. Honestly, I wish the master's degree and doctoral students of the Department of Political Science, History, International Relations, and Economic Management were here. Your Excellency, the immediate past governor of Ondo State, we thank God for the caliber of people in this gathering. But I'm hoping one day, sir, probably before the year runs out, the Lord will graciously grant the managers of this country a mistake in inviting you to come and deliver this lecture at the Institute of National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. And by the grace of God, after the delivery of this lecture, you will come back alive. Reason is, yes, because it will hit the nail the way it did here. It's the product of Ife. Bold, courageous, uncompromising. You will live long, sir. All courtesies duly extended. May I invite Dr. Lola Olanide to please come forward here. Just start by me, don't worry, because I know people will be comparing the color of our complexion. The chief imam of Ilara Moken is there, Alhaji Badamosi Tajuddin. Welcome you, sir. Sallu ala Nabina Mustafa. The chairman of Akure South Local Government, Honorable Olani Yigbenga. You're welcome, sir. I have the Dean, Cathedral Church of St. David, Akure, Venerable T. Okwe Kujero. And of course, for the Adikinry, Ilara Mokin, St. Michael Church, Ilara Mokin, Venerable SMA Adetiba. I have Mr. Ade Yusuf and Mr. Mayowa Adeyemo, both of Polaris Bank Limited. Please, you're welcome. And of course, I know she's here, the daughter of the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. Her Excellency, Benny Taylor, where are you? Thank you very much. Now, please, my sister, please Can you stand up again? Please sit down. Are you married? No, ma, I'm asking. They talk of collaboration now. You don't know. Anyway, Emma Binu. Dr. Tola. Dr. Tola, looking at the Toyota Nigeria Limited, you're welcome, sir. Mr. Adeoye Ojuoko, the founder, Work and Play. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. The founder, Elizade University, the representative of the state governor, the former governor, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, our royal fathers, the amiable wife of the founder, the University Board of Trustees, members of Council and Senate, visiting Vice Chancellors and Registrars, graduating students and their parents, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. With your permission, I will ask our distinguished guest speaker for today, the Honorable Vice President, Republic of Liberia, Her Excellency, Chief Dr. Jewel Howard Taylor, to please rise and remain standing while I read her citation. Chief Dr. Howard Taylor is a daughter of Bong County, the third largest constituency in Liberia. Born to the royal household of Kekula Giddings of Seneyoa District, who during his tenure wrote the script to the Pele language. The Vice President was raised as a child on the Phoebe Hospital compound under the watchful care of her loving parents, Mr. Moses Y. Howard and Mrs. Nora Giddings Howard, both of whom were enviable professional health workers who died in service to the people of Bong County and were buried at the Phoebe compound. Vice President Chief Dr. Taylor is astute and well-read. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees, one in economics and another in law, a diploma in international relations. She's well-versed in managing financial affairs up to the macroeconomic level with postgraduate qualifications in banking, in finance, as well as in business management and leadership. Her Excellency stands out as an involved stateswoman, having served in the public and private sectors for over 20 years before assuming the office of the Vice President. She has been the President, Agricultural Cooperative Bank, the Deputy Governor, National Bank of Liberia, now Central Bank of Liberia, the First Lady of the Republic of Liberia, twice the Senior Senator of Bang County, and as we all know, she is currently the first female Vice President of Liberia and the first among many in Africa. She strives towards a vision for affordable but quality education, a transparent justice system, an improved and accessible health system, women's economic and political participation, and an accountable public service system, among other goals. As a result of her impressive work in Liberia and abroad, she has received honorary degrees in leadership and governance, in gender development, and in international relations from across the globe. Her Excellency is often referred to as the People's Senator and the Senator without boundaries. In confirmation of this title and an account of her national and Pan-African disposition, Newsweek magazine voted her the second most powerful female politician in Liberia in 2011. And in 2018, she was named West Africa's most influential woman by the African Observatory for the Promotion of Good Governance. Her Excellency, Chief Dr. Taylor, currently serves in many capacities, a few of which are Chair, Board of Trustees, Restoration Baptist Church, Oldest Congo Town, Member, the Liberian Supreme Court Bar, Member, Bong County Bar, Member, Bong County Women Association, Member, Liberian Rural Women Association, Chair of the Board, African Women's Leadership Organization, Member of the Board, International Women's Political Leadership Network, Patron for Africa Girl to Leader Initiative, founder and chief patron, the Jewel Starfish Foundation, member of African Women Leaders Network and African Union Initiative. As a result of her national impact, Vice President Chief Dr. Taylor has been a recipient of many accolades, laurels, and awards from local, national, and international organizations, key among which are the nation's highest honor as Knight Great Dame, Order of the Most Venerable of Pioneers in 2005, granted to her by former President Charles G. Taylor for her service to the nation as the 21st First Lady of Liberia. The National Excellence Award for Philanthropy in 2009, the National Excellence Award for Exceptional National Service in 2011, the first female to be given the distinguished traditional title of Venerable Chief in the National Traditional Council of Liberia in 2011, a chieftaincy title conferred on her by traditional chiefs and elders of Bong County for her role in sponsoring the bill which created the National Traditional Council of Liberia, and in full recognition of her exemplary service to the traditional people. She's also received the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Recognition Award for Humanitarian Services and Contribution to Youth Development in Liberia from the African and American Women Peace in 2011. She's received the Women Activist Award in 2016 for her role in gender advocacy and empowerment. And across the globe, she has also been honored as Outstanding African Female Leader of the Year 2012 from the African Leadership Awards in Dubai, Outstanding African Women Achievers Award as African Mentor, Role Model from the African Women Leadership Organization in Nigeria in 2013, as ECOWAS Goodwill Ambassador by the ECOWAS Female Parliamentary Association in Abuja in 2015, as one of the 100 most influential women by Advanced Media in 2019, as most influential African woman by the African Woman Barometer in 2019, in 2021 as 50 most inspirational African female leaders, in 2022 the International She for She Champion at the International She for She Summit in Belize, and again in 2022 the African Leadership of Excellence Award received here in Abuja in Nigeria. Vice President Chief Dr. Taylor cherishes the grassroots. She's a strong pillar of the Christian community. She's a believer in women's empowerment, in multi-party democracy, in freedom of speech, in human rights, and the rule of law. Her commitment to women empowerment, remarkable through her establishment more than 20 years ago of the Jewel Starfish Foundation, continues to provide education, empowerment, mentoring, and leadership to girls in West Africa, specifically in Liberia, Malawi, Ghana, and Sierra Leone. Vice President Chief Dr. Jewel Howard Taylor is a nationalist, the former First Lady of the Republic of Liberia, an eminent citizen, a devout Christian, the standard bearer of the National Patriotic Party, the first female Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, the first female President of the Liberian Senate, a distinguished and dedicated public servant, a patriotic citizen, a positive role model. So we ask, to whom else could we have given the responsibility of awakening in us the call for rebirth of Africa, to speak to us today on the subject of African Renaissance? And we answer to one of Liberia's foremost advocates for increased and improved opportunities for women of Liberia and Africa, to a critical voice on cross-cutting issues at the frontier of repositioning Liberia for vibrancy, inclusiveness, productivity, democracy, and good governance. Yes, to Chief Dr. Howard Taylor, who desires an Africa that has risen to its highest potential, becoming a unified, industrialized, and productive continent. Distinguished gathering, may I ask that you kindly rise with me to welcome the Jewel of Liberia and Africa, the Yeye Korede of Ilaramok in DC, the Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Her Excellency, Chief Dr. Jewel Howard Taylor, to deliver the 6th and 7th Convocation lecture of the Elizade University, Laramoki.
Your Excellencies, please have your seats. His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, ably represented by the Minister of Education, His Royal Majesty, the Alara of Ilara Moboking. I am honored, sir. I think I'm supposed to say, AKBEC. Thank you. Our royal fathers, Your Excellency, the immediate past governor of Ondo State and the chairman of this convocation lecture, our bishops, the founder of the Elizade University, Chief Michael Adeoju, and his beautiful wife, who looks like me, so I'm adopting her as a sister. The members of the governing council, members of the Senate, members of the Board of Trustees, the Vice Chancellor, deans, faculty, and staff of the Elizade University, distinguished professors and officials of other universities here, please allow me to stand on existing protocols. I want to first give honor and glory to God for great things He has done in my life, and I believe that greater things He will continue to do. I am grateful for yet another day that He has given me to be able to stand here and raise my voice in this place at this critical juncture in our history. I am certain, and I'm not afraid or ashamed to say, that had it not been for the grace of God and His mercy towards me, I maybe not be here today. He has allowed me to become the first female vice president of my beloved nation, a position that I do not take lightly. And so I'm so grateful to His grace and mercy. Before I begin the task for which I was invited, please permit me to express my deep gratitude to the following personalities. To His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, ably represented by the Minister of Education, for the warm welcome and the courtesies accorded me and my delegation since our arrival here in Ondo State. I have visited quite a few states, but this is my first visit here to Ondo. I want to also humbly thank the founder, Chief Michael Adeojo, and the board of this great university to have given me, someone from so far away, an opportunity to be the convocation lecturer today. I'm so grateful. I want to, in a special way, extend my deepest appreciation to His Royal Majesty, the Alara of Alara Mobuking, for welcoming my delegation and I yesterday, and surprising me with a distinguished chieftaincy title. And I hope I pronounce it right. I should now be called the Yeye Korede of Ilara Mobuking. Thank you, Your Majesty. Truly, I am deeply honored. Your Majesty, Excellencies, our founder, officials and members of the Elizade family, our honored guests, members of the staff and student body here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Truly, I was anxious about this deliberation, knowing the caliber of people who would be present. I almost frantically said, I'm not going. But I know that this is such a rare opportunity. I remain grateful. I frantically searched many places in order to find relevant information. As I listened to the Vice Chancellor and to the chairman of this convocation, it seems as if we were in the same place last night. And this is what God does, connects the dots. So I want to thank the both of them for expanding what I would like to briefly say today. But when I got the information about the greatness of this university and the work of the founder in ensuring that a legacy, an enduring legacy, is here in his hometown, I'm even more honored to be called a friend of his. I salute you for your wisdom, your clear vision, and your commitment to your country, to your state, and to your community. Through this university, you are providing opportunities for the training of generations of global African leaders we so desperately need. By this singular action of one person, the founder has connected to the vision needed to make Africa the continent our forefathers dreamt about. And the hope of our young people by ensuring that those who travel through these hallowed halls become part of the generation necessary for the long-awaited African Renaissance. I salute you again, Chief Michael, for your understanding of the task of building the Africa we long for. Your Majesty, Excellencies, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to conclude my appreciation, lastly but not least, in giving our gratitude to the eagles of this great university, our professors, for their stellar performance and leadership exhibited by the rise in the stature of this university over the past 10 years, from humble beginnings to becoming one of Africa's best. Can we clap for them, please? Thank you. You know, we often may not say it as we should, but the professors of universities and our citadels of learning across Africa are truly likened to trees planted by rivers of waters, which yield its fruit in its due season. The fact is that our world cannot be what we hope for without the choice fruits they continue to produce. Thankfully, it is these fruits which will make the Africa we dream of become a reality. Therefore, please allow me to, on behalf of all of us present here and the people of Africa, extend our greatest and our deepest gratitude to the faculty and staff of the Elizade University for all that they do to secure future great African leaders. It is my prayer that you will continue to play a role as trees planted by rivers of water, and that you will retain the capacity to provide learning and wisdom to all who desire it. And that as you work in this great citadel of learning, keep in mind that you are true examples of one of God's most precious creation, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in its roots, in its trunk, in its leaves and its flowers, and in the fruit lie the tenets for obtaining successful and impactful lives. I would have wanted to close my tributes at this juncture, but it would be remiss of me were I not to include a co-component of this occasion: the parents, guardians, and sponsors of our young people. Today's celebration and tomorrow is indeed yours, as we remember and celebrate you for your commitment and dedication to ensuring that the young people of Africa become what we hope they will be. These parents, guardians, and sponsors are the true heroes, understanding the seasons and the times and ensuring that people are processed properly. You can be proud that the sacrifices you make to make this kind of opportunity available are what we need today. And I so thank you. Congratulations for a job well done. Your Majesty, Excellencies, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My topic, as you heard earlier, is one that makes you think deeply. But permit me to begin with a few concepts which I think is necessary for getting a grasp of what I'll be trying to say. Simple, yet profound words. What is leadership? The Oxford Dictionary tells us it is the ability of an individual or a group of individuals to influence and guide followers or other members of an organization towards an expected outcome. What is a paradigm? A pattern of something. And what is the African Renaissance? As described by Wikipedia, a philosophical and political movement to end the Africa that we see today, and instead replace the so-called dark continent with a more just, a more inclusive, a more equitable, and a more humane continent. Please keep in mind that these three concepts form the basis for today's topic, creating the new leadership for the paradigm we all seek. In our global world today, the stark reality of our interconnectivity and the current status of the dark continent of Africa, with all of the in-betweens, the unlimited possibilities still lying dormant at our feet, the still cries of our forefathers, which can be heard in the wind and the rain, and the hopelessness and yearning for a better Africa for our ever-growing and teeming youthful population, today compels each of us, Africans, male and female, from all segments of the world, across our societies, to consider two critical issues as we continuously search for a formula or several formulas that will once and for all place Africa in the front and foremost of continents in our world. I know you will agree with me that the first thing is that we do need a new formula, or else we would not be where we are today. Secondly, we need a new mindset, which will chart a new pathway with determination and commitment, and lead us to the front where we should be. As the chairman of the Convocation spoke, my mind went way back to where it all started. And we need to keep in mind how far we have come, but yet how much further we have to go. I am of the opinion that if we could get this mindset right, the new philosophy needed under the concept of African Renaissance will be so easy. It will consist of a rebirth which brings about a totally new dimension and a totally new turnabout, turning us around from our current dire status of affairs of most African countries, except for a few, to one which produces and sustains not only a just and efficient system, but a prosperous one, an equitable one, a democratic one, and a one under a system of good governance. This term, the African Renaissance, was formally introduced by former South African President Thabo Mbeki in an address to the United States Corporate Council on Africa in Virginia, the USA, in April of 1997. He then subsequently held a meeting in Johannesburg where he addressed an audience of almost 500 persons from academia, business, politics, in order to get them ready to start to look at the reality of who we were as Africans, where we wanted to be in the global scheme of things, and how do we get there. If you search behind the scenes at this meeting, it will be clear to see that the main objective of the meeting held in Johannesburg was an attempt to provide, firstly, a clear understanding and acceptance of the reality of the dire straits that the continent is in. That meeting, secondly, imbibed a hope that once this reality was accepted, those who were present would begin to dream new dreams, conceive how to make those dreams come true and be prepared to work as hard as our forebears did, removing Africa from the place of colonialism and slavery into freedom. They considered an advanced development agenda which would propel Africa to a position of vibrant productivity, thus becoming a fierce competitor in a global world economy, especially since all of the resources, human and natural resources, remain on this continent. The discussions at this period suggested the establishment of an agenda which included items like sustained economic growth, material and human resource development, the building of a modern, robust socio-economic environment, and a vast interconnected infrastructure system throughout Africa. They looked at a proposal for cancellation of Africa's debt, which indeed keeps us bound. They are not intended to help us to rise, but is intended to keep you subjugated to the strings of the West. They spoke about industrialization and cutting-edge competitiveness that Africa has within it, and an increased domestic, regional, continental, and foreign investment. They spoke about the need for continental cohesion, collaboration, and unity, and the need to see one another as our sisters and our brothers. And they talked about open access for high-grade African products which could be produced and sold on the continent and in other countries in the developed world. At this conference, former President Mbeki concluded his speech by saying, and I quote, "I am convinced that a great burden rests on the shoulders of Africa's intelligentsia, those who have been trained, educated, and capacitated to help us achieve this objective. Remaining cognizant that we have arrived at the point where the enormous brain power which our continent possesses must become a vital instrument in helping us secure an equitable space within a world affected by a rapid process of globalization which benefits the West and denies Africa the blessings that God has given us," end quote. Former President Mbeki then enjoined those who were at that conference to look at the concept of a new mindset. We're still talking about the proper mindset. He then coined the word, the African Renaissance. This was embraced by all of the participants at that conference. This new vision for a changed mindset was characterized by an emphasis on the new type of leadership needed to effectuate this plan of action. The practical strategies and solutions to be employed no matter what, and programs and activities which will grow, develop, expand, and benefit Africa. Though this conversation was held and the fire of a new world of Africans ignited, unfortunately today, Africa stands still in that place. Most nations have remained at this point of talking about the issues and not doing anything about it. But the truth being told, this conversation goes way back. The conversation about a new Africa dates as far back as the days of slavery. Through the slaves of our liberation struggle, and continues today as economic slavery. For though our forefathers gave their blood, sweat, and tears for Africa to be liberated and free, we still remain under the bondage of economic slavery. I say enough is enough. It is my prayer that this new generation, represented by the class that will be graduating tomorrow, will be imbibed with a new fire and an urgent need to create this new paradigm. We need a new mindset indeed, and the wisdom to clearly understand the types of leaders that we need. Ones who are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifices for rebuilding, even if it costs their lives. ones who are willing to put in place plans and programs for the industrialization of our continent, manufacturing and producing from our resources that we have in abundance, and finally rebranding our continent, for it is indeed the continent of the future. This must be done if the African Renaissance that we all dream about will become a reality. With this basis being set, as a lawyer, permit me to deal with the first issue for consideration. That question is, what then is the new leadership paradigm necessary for what we dream about? It's a very simple answer. We all know, as this is academia, that the development of human societies is only possible if there are proper leaders in the right positions with the right frameworks, structures, and systems in place. We should produce what we hope. The writer John Maxwell believes this adage. He teaches it and firmly declares that everything rises and falls on leadership. Hence, there can be no institution, no organization, no tribal grouping, or no family that can rise above the quality of its leaders. Other luminaries have gone further to say that progress occurs when courageous, skillful, visionary, and knowledgeable leaders seize the opportunity to become agents of transformational change, leading with wisdom, intent, diligence, character, integrity. Simply put, only this kind of leader can turn things around for a better Africa. For as they lead, they not only fire the imagination of others to follow in their stead, but they are able to mobilize everyone around them for concrete actions and success, hoping that the benefits for all will be realized. Your Majesty, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we consider this framework and the need for a new mindset, please pause with me for a moment. Let me remind each of us of the current state of our world today. President Barack Obama delivered his inaugural address on January 20th, 2009, and he spoke about these. These words that he spoke about the state of affairs in the United States ring even truer today, especially for our continent, which faces extremism, violence, hatred, hunger, disease, lack, inequalities, bad governance, corruption, nepotism, selfishness, and the list can go on and on and on. We have weak systems. Our institutions of learning, most of them, provide knowledge without wisdom and character, and men and women without integrity, and those are the ones who end up in the political offices. To make things worse, as a result of greed, lack of patriotism, low political will, and the inability of the majority voices to speak truth to power, as the chairman of the Convocation so eloquently did. It is therefore without a shadow of a doubt that I say without any fear or favor that today, Africa, more so than others, needs a new brand of strategic and visionary leaders who have the correct mindset and are capable of building transformational systems, who have the willpower to lead justly, effectively, and efficiently, and who carry the uncommon fire to do all within their human powers to build a better world, not for some of Africa, but of all of Africa. This remains the vision of our forefathers, and it is the hope of our young people as they seek greener pastures abroad and run through seas and oceans and die in the thousands, seeking something better than what they are. Former President, South African President Madiba Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "To be a great leader, one must never give up, must always try to bring others together and be selfless. For leadership is indeed about working with and for others to achieve a common goal that benefits everyone." The true value, impact, and benefits of strategic leadership is to bring together and lead a dedicated team of leaders for one person indeed can never do what we want, who are dedicated to ensure the integration, creativity, and innovation necessary to drive a collective vision for Africa. As has been seen throughout the human history, thank you. We all know the benefits of such a system. I believe this is what we need. The second issue for consideration is how then can we create and multiply these types of leaders? The Harvard 2020 Business Review talks about changing the mindset to know who we are, believe what we are capable of achieving with all that God has given us, and accept that without our God-given talents, we are incapable of building the new Africa. The review indicated that mindsets are the mental lenses of leaders, which dictate what kind of information is taken in, how that information is processed, and how it is used to make decisions that drives the final outcome. Indeed, the mindsets of individuals drive their decisions, and these decisions drive actions, and these actions drive the result. It may surprise you to note that the human being's brain is hardwired to primarily focus on the negative. And this is a result of studies that have been made. Has your boss or your parent ever praised you on a particular project, but then suggest one or two areas for improvement? Upon hearing that but and making suggestions for improvement, most of us zero in on the negatives. We forget all of the praise and we zero in on that small negative. Most times, even if you don't say it, in your heart, you feel that you've disappointed that person. The brain will always zero in on the bad news. This is known in psychology as the negative bias. It's an innate human reaction that has come with us over generations. Many, many, many generations ago, our forefathers expected the worst in a world they did not understand. And they were only able to survive because they kept that negative instinct. Unfortunately, it has come down from one generation to another generation to each of us here today. You must first recognize that. Unfortunately, that survival gene exists in everyone and can actually hold us back in many aspects of our daily lives without us being conscious of it. What happens in our highly developed brains is that we tend to focus on something we perceive to be a threat, which may not actually be one, but we do believe it's a threat. Then one begins to worry, what if, how, when, and all of the negativity encloses your mind. If you're not careful, these thoughts will go over and over through your mind like a broken record until they burn in your brain and make you have a negative output. We must create a positive mindset which determines our actions if we must create the Africa of our dreams. In neurobiology, thank you. In neurobiology, there's something called the Hebb's rule, which basically boils down to this. And it's important for us to think about this mindset issue because this is the problem that we have. In our minds, the neurons fire together. It is said that they fire and they wire together. The more we do something, or the more we think about something, it becomes hardwired in our brains. And we become people who believe that we are not capable of creating the Africa of our dreams. Thankfully, the good news is that with knowledge and understanding and intention and practice, this rule can work in the opposite direction. So you do have the capability as a human being to reverse this trait. We must retool the minds of our people in order to create the mental shift that we need. This mental shift will actually change our perspective, change our realities, change our patterns in our subsequent actions. For someone could ask simply, what do you see? Are you looking or are you seeing? Seeing is a spiritual aspect, it's not physical. The individual's mindset is not inconsequential, as some may believe, but it plays a dramatic role in determining the state of your mind and in determining the output. I pray each of us will now understand this critical aspect is important to creating the new leaders that will bring about the African Renaissance. The third issue then is, what type of leaders do we need? And I'll just go through it briefly. We need visionary leaders who can envision a better future for our country. We need aspirational leaders who have natural development agendas and who are determined to see their country go in leaps and bounds. We need exemplary leaders who will walk the walk and talk the talk, leading by examples. We need agile leaders that are nimble and versatile and remain connected to the people. We need compassionate leaders who actually care. We need leaders with honor and integrity. You see, there's a reason why elected leaders in many countries have the prefix title honorable before their names. It is based on a presumption that such leaders are truly honorable men and women in spirit and in deeds. We need just leaders. We need selfless leaders. We need accountable leaders. Accountability. Another subject for another lecture. And we need inspirational leaders, those who inspire us to be more than ourselves. Can all of these traits be found in one person? I say yes. I am convinced that this type of leader does exist in many parts of our world. Some clear examples: President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, former President Nelson Mandela of South Africa, former President Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, and of course here in Nigeria there are many names led by President Nnamdi Benjamin Azikiwe, amongst others. Sadly, though such types of leaders exist in our part of the world, at the political level, they are mostly absent. They are few and far in between. But the traits needed for the kinds of leaders that we need for the African Renaissance are found in leaders operating in the business and economic sectors, very rarely at the political level. But this is where the real change takes place. Leaving me to wonder, how can we transition or shift such leaders from their apolitical convictions to active political roles where the changes actually begin to happen? Here we have our own Chief Mike, who has, by sheer will, created such a citadel of learning. One person. How can we shift people with that fire into the political space? There are some who believe that politics is for politicians. Well, I say no. Politics are for the best and the brightest and the most committed of our people. Because we long for better countries, we long for better cities, we long for better environments, we long for a better Africa. In order to get that done, we must be where the changes take place. Your Majesty, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is one final issue: whether these physical attributes are enough to create the kind of leader that we need for the African Renaissance. Unfortunately, all of these attributes are maybe just 60%. of the attributes needed to be a transformational leader. Where do we get the other 40%? That other 40%, and I would dare to speak here in this citadel of learning, is a different context, but it is so important. Let me backtrack a little bit. Yesterday I visited His Majesty at the palace, and it was uncommon to see the reverence of God in every aspect of their ceremonies. That is rare. I've visited many palaces and I've seen many people. In fact, in most places, God is absent. But this spiritual part allows each of us not to just have knowledge and understanding, but wisdom. Wisdom comes from God. And it is that wisdom that ultimately brings out the best in each of us. And that is the basis, foundational basis for the African Renaissance. We must not ignore this 40%. When I went to school many years ago, I know 60% was failing. I think we still have 60% as failing today. So as long as we remain at that 60% level, Africa will remain where it is. As I stand here in the midst of academic luminaries, of which I was so nervous this morning, I kept twiddling my speech over and over, and the founder was waiting for me. I kept saying, no, I'm not ready yet. I can see through the eyes of faith. Some of you are wondering in your heads and asking, where is she going with this angle? I know that this aspect of my discussion is a topic not regularly spoken of in these kinds of settings. But I am not ashamed to say that I am who I am today because of this spiritual aspect of man given by God, our Creator, to each of us. This spiritual aspect is the most important one out of everything else I've spoken about today. And regardless of what you believe, I am of the opinion that we all know that man is a tripartite being, made out of body, soul, and spirit. This truth is written in the Holy Bible and in other religious books. In the Bible, it states in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, and I read, "Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness. So the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul." It is that soul that we need to ignite. In Job, it says, chapter 32, verse 8, that there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty God giveth them understanding. This 40% is a special attribute that links man with our Creator, who would give us liberally the wisdom and the courage that we need. He will give us the ability to understand our surrounding, give us information, and we call it intuition, and give us a way forward, knowing correctly that you should go straight and not left or right. I believe that this angle of our conversation, and I could go on and on about that, but it's also a lecture for another day. But please keep in mind the intrinsic value of that spiritual component. Let me end with what then is the value of that spiritual aspect in leaders for the new African Renaissance. This aspect is the highest value of the spiritual that you can attain, that has the power of self-determination. And I believe our forefathers, as they fought colonialism and slavery, tapped into that spiritual aspect, because it allows you to go beyond yourself, not even thinking about what could happen. As far as they were concerned, Africa needed liberation, and if it caused blood and sweat and tears, they were able to do it through God. This aspect allows one to make better choices and to think about others as you think for yourself. It helps you decipher good from evil, and it gives you the options to choose well. It is this aspect that manages the mindset and can propel him either to the highest heights humanly achievable or allow you to descend to the lowest depth. The truth is that humans want and need our lives to count for something. And that comes way back from the Garden of Eden. When man fell, the desire to please God, to do better, has come down from one generation to the other. It is this desire in each of us to please our Maker once again by making the right choices for others that propels the greatness in each of us. Therefore, there's a deep desire in everyone to live lives that are impactful and lives that will change the status quo. But normally, as man is, instead of us using that special gift and tuning into the frequency which makes us the best of ourselves, we frequently try to make our own life, living as we see, doing what we feel, thereby becoming selfish. Frustratingly, we end up thinking that the stories of the great personalities in our history are only for a selective few. Yet, that is not how God intended our lives to be. We were not built to be mediocre or mundane or just live out a life of nothingness. God has made all of us for a special purpose. And that's why there is always a yearning in our hearts to do more. This deep desire was stated by an unknown writer, and I quote, "Our soul carries the spiritual aspect, which is the source for all of our achievements," end quote. So everything we dream, everything we create, everything we imagine and build and birth comes from this soul and our interaction with our Creator. Therefore, if we must build the Africa of our dreams, we cannot just have technical knowledge and understanding. We need wisdom that will give us the character and the commitment and the sternness of spirit to be the best that we can be. Therefore, I dare say there can be no African Renaissance without leaders who have the proper skills, training, knowledge, understanding, and the right mindset for generational transformation. Ones who know their God, who have a personal relationship with Him, and who knows how to cultivate, maintain, and nourish that spiritual component with God at its center. This is what is missing in our African psyche. But our forefathers knew, maybe not God as we know it today, but they knew that there was one central figure who had created everything, and they found time to worship Him and adore Him and praise Him. And so maybe they were the great leaders of the past, but we can assume that same greatness if we are aware, if we change our mindset, and we are prepared to tune in to that power. Your Majesty, Excellencies, my gracious host and founder of the Elizade University, members of this university family, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In closing, permit me to leave you with just a few words of my own. That the world we live in today indeed requires a new breed of leaders who not only have knowledge and understanding and wisdom and skills and character, but ones who acknowledge and accept that God-given 40%, who are now transformed by that interaction into a democratic space under a good government framework that will become a natural way of life. We need ones who are bold, who are straightforward, who are uncompromising in order to transform Africa into the Africa of our dreams. Looking directly at the issues, accepting them, but saying enough is enough. We need those who are actually led by the inspiration of God, who are willing to follow His lead for greater impact. Today has indeed been an honor and a rare privilege to have been given such a unique platform to give the lecture on this auspicious occasion to such an august gathering of great leaders. I am indeed truly humbled. But before I take my seat, I beg the indulgence of our founder and our father, and also the indulgence of His Majesty, to allow me to use this occasion to create a special annual scholarship for the most brilliant girl attending this university. This annual scholarship will be sponsored by my foundation, the Jewel Starfish Foundation, but it's been done in honor and in the name of His Royal Majesty, the Alara of Olaramokin. For his farsightedness and uncanny wisdom in leading the people of Olaramokin under the spiritual covering of Jehovah Jireh, the Most High God. Our founder, would you come up, please, so I can give you the first payment for the first year of about $1 million Nigerian naira, I believe, for the scholarship for the girl that is not only knowledgeable, but that is able to imbibe the qualities that we look for in great leaders of our time. Thank you, sir. Our founder, would you come up, please? So I can give you the first payment for the first year of about $1 million Nigerian naira, I believe, for the scholarship.
Please, let's keep clapping for Her Excellency.
But that is able to imbibe.
We can do much better. We can make it much louder.
Thank you, sir. Our founder, would you come up?
Yes, thank you very much.
So I can give you.
We can be seated. Please, if you are a woman in this gathering, look to your right and to your left. If you see another woman there, tell that woman congratulations. Even men are congratulating women, saying congratulations. That was a lecture that Her Excellency said she was afraid to deliver. The lecture, professorial in content, excellent in delivery. Please, let's give it to her once again. Thank you. Please, the next one is question and answers, and His Excellency, the former governor of Ondo State, will do justice to that as the chairman of this occasion is going to, Your Excellency will coordinate the question and answer session. But please permit me to recognize members of the entourage of Her Excellency that I call the Liberian delegation. We have Honorable Claude Carter, Deputy Chief of Staff, Operations. Please, let's appreciate him. I have Mr. Ephraim Tihage, Deputy Chief of Protocol. Thank you, my brother. Oh, no wonder you asked me, do I want to marry her? Okay, don't worry, we will talk. Sergeant Elena Banda, Security Officer. Thank you very much, madam. Mr. Henry Kanga, Media Officer. Thank you, my brother. Ms. Bernice Taylor, Executive Assistant. Stand up. And you are sitting at the back of His Majesty. This is symbolic. And for Lagos Liaison Officer, we have Mr. Maker. Thank you, my brother. Please let me quickly recognize Honorable Clement Faboyede, former chairman of PDP Ondo State. Where are you, sir? Thank you, sir. Dr. Yemisi Oloronshola, national president at Bomo Ilaramokin. Thank you, madam. Please, we can do much better for her. Now, please, can you write it here for me? Architect J.D. Adaramola, CEO, Basilica Limited. And of course, I have the MD Tunde Adejuma and co, Mr. Tunde Adejuma. Also in the house today, Principal, Futa Staff Secondary School, Akure, Mrs. Folake Adekambi. Then the press secretary to Her Excellency, the Vice President, the guest lecturer for today, Mr. Richmond. Novel, thank you very much. Where are you, my brother? Yes, a distinguished gentleman of the press. Your Excellency, I want to hand over this microphone to you with due respect.
Thank you. I think we should just give the guest lecturer another round of applause. Thank you. She's done justice to the topic. You all agree with me? Yes. Yes, you've done justice to the topic. She's told us about the new leadership, the leadership paradigm that African Renaissance will bring about. The only reason is I wonder, she classified technical and spiritual. Technical, your learning, your experience and all of that. The spiritual is about wisdom, how you connect to God that keeps pushing you to do even beyond your soul. But the only question I have, my first question, I'm asking the first question, why she has given, because in this university, 60% not the pass mark. So if technical is 60, then you don't need the spirituality. So I think the spirituality should be 60% actually, the technical 40%. So we'll now take questions from the audience. Please mention your name as you ask your question. Yes, over there, please. Your name and your affiliation.
Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Dr. Taiwo Adefisoye. I have a comment and a question. And my comment is that there is no gainsaying that the shining streets of Europe and America were built by the blood, sweat, and resources stolen from Africa. But the question we need to ask ourselves, after 50 years of political independence and statehood, what have we been able to do with our God-given resources? We know that Africa is a continent that is blessed with an estate of corrupt and visionless leaders. We understand that leadership is the commonest diagnosis of the African ailment. And unfortunately, this ailment has developed an indignant resistance to all forms of therapy. And the attendant implication of this misnomer is made manifest in the human capital deficit, infrastructural deficit, and the daily revolution of rising frustration that we see on the African continent. And as much as we try to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, our leaders remain the apron string and have tied our destinies to the waist of Western capitalists. They plunder our resources and still go cap in hand to China, to Japan, to the West, to borrow and further mortgage our future. Now, I want to direct my question to the guest lecturer. She made mention of Paul Kagame of Rwanda. I want to call our attention to the fact that Paul Kagame has elongated himself in power more than the stipulated 2 terms. However, he's doing well. And that points our attention to the fact that one of the problems of Africa is our form of government. Liberal democracy has failed in Africa. And if we are to go by the Rwanda model, then Africa to embrace either garrison democracy or benevolent autocracy. Ma, what's your opinion on this? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Doc. Please let's. Yes. Okay. Please let's have some quiet, please. Okay.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of Liberia, I have been really moved like most of you here.
Your name and affiliation.
Oh, my name is Bode Adidiji, and I'm a member of Council of Elizade University, the most beautiful campus in this part of our world. I just have one question because it's based on my interaction with Nigeria. I was a member of Vision 2020. I've worked under our former governor, Iroko, when he was minister. And so I've seen quite a lot about Nigeria. My question goes to our visitor, Your Excellency, ma'am. Where you have a country that has everything, as I mentioned, whether it is resources, whether it is manpower, whether it is praying, whether it's anything like Nigeria, then why are we what we are? It is not a very, very easy question because I said that I was a member of Vision 2020. Nigeria pray. Nigeria has intellect. Nigeria has everything, resources. Why are we who we are? That's my question.
Thank you. Yes. Is there a lady in the house? Lady in the house, okay. Oh yeah, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyson Azal, and I'm MD of Fab Construction. Very briefly, I'll be very brief because I know our time is passing. We'll talk about African Renaissance.
Name and affiliation.
Nazar Tyson Ahmed Nazar. MD of Fab Construction, one of the founding laborers of this university. We talk about African Renaissance. I have a problem with the way we interpret African Renaissance. And the issue is, we talk about leadership, failure of leadership. Who are the leaders? This is where we need to begin from. Leadership comes from all of us. We are all the leaders. People who were 10, 20 years ago criticizing leaders are the people who are leaders today. Repeating the same things that were being criticized 10, 20 years ago. And we talk about leader. The people talking about leadership today will be the same people in power tomorrow with the same corruption, the same bad leadership. So how do we begin to appreciate or love our country? How do we begin to free ourselves from the mental slavery which Dr. Mimiko talked about? I'll give you a common example. In Her Excellency Dr. Taylor's country, which I went to the University of Liberia. I remember they used to have a holiday called Matilda Newport holiday. This was a woman who killed a lot of Africans, a lot of native people, and she was being celebrated for killing native people. We have our history is skewed in such a way that everything about the West is acceptable. Everything about Africa, from our religion to our way of dressing to everything, is condemned. The African religion is condemned, is evil. The white man's religion is the best. The African way of dressing is evil. The white man dressing is the best. The African history. We have schools in Africa that teaches only Western history. They don't teach African history, for example. How do we begin to appreciate and love our country? I remember when Dr. Mimiko was governor, there was a total revolution in the health sector. It's gone because we had nurses and doctors who will refer patients to the private hospitals who were stealing the drugs, for example. That's an example. The policeman who takes bribe on the road. We're talking about leadership. What is the leadership we're talking about? These are the people that will become leaders tomorrow. We're talking about the people that will tamper with their meter, their NEPA meter, because they don't want to pay bill. And we say, want Africa to develop. How will Africa develop? So we should look at these things. How do we begin to love our country first? You have to love your nation first before you talk of African Renaissance. How do we do that? That's my question.
Thank you. I will only give, is there a lady? Yes. And that will be the last question for this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon, our guest speaker. Thank you very much for the excellent. You know, while you were giving that lecture, what came to mind was that I attend programs like this. I listen to such speeches. Everybody is touched.
Sorry, ma'am. Name?
Oh, apologies. I'm Olajumoke Ajayi. I'm a member of the Governing Council of this university. So I listen to lectures like this. We're all touched. We go back, and nothing is done. And I observe that our youth, even children in primary school, when you talk about Africa, they don't want to hear about it. So how do we want to change the mindset of these children who will be the leaders of tomorrow, who we expect to be the leaders of tomorrow? Because it is only when they believe in Africa that they can, you know, work on becoming a leader in the same country. Many people are leaving this country, leaving other African countries to the Western world. What can we do to change this narrative? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for these 4 brilliant questions that somehow are all just interlinked. I think the first and the second questions were, how do we remove ourselves or eradicate our minds from mental slavery to produce the leaders that we want? And the first person spoke about the leadership of President Paul Kagame. We need to look at results. What are the results coming from the leaderships? And let's forget that President Paul Kagame, through a referendum by almost 100% of his people, said they wanted him to continue. And that is democracy. In other countries where a referendum to change the constitution was met with stiff resistance, Burkina Faso, Mali, even though the constitution was changed right after a coup took place. And I heard the young men who had taken over in Mali say, where were you when we were complaining about the negatives of our governments, of the corruption, of the bad governance? No one paid attention. Once there's a coup, then you say we have no rationale for bringing back the old systems. But the young people of our days want a better life. We all want a better life. I don't care how old or how young you are. What are the results coming out of Rwanda? And you can begin to talk about the greenest place in the world, the cleanest place, the most innovative, the most developed, the most gender equity, the most, I mean, just go on and on and on. I like to look at the positive effects of the leadership of Paul Kagame that we all hope across our continent. And not just the simple fact that he's gone beyond the term limits. Remember, democracy was not an aspect of who we were or who we are. The olden days, chiefs and the leaders of our time had a very strict structure, more like the monarchy in England. And no one dared to even ask, why is it this family alone? Certain decisions were taken, and once the leader was accepted as that leader, the communities went on, especially if one brought positive benefits for all. It is the benefits that we all look at. I believe that those who came from across the seas to colonize our continent and to make us slaves, there's a quotation, and I don't remember it quite well, but one of the leaders who had come said, if we must conquer Africa, we must change their belief systems, we must change their religion, we must change the whole concept of who they believe they are. Because the greatest leaders of our time were the leaders before colonization. There was a conversation over the last few days, and someone was speaking about Mansa Musa. And they compared the wealth and the wisdom and the intellect beyond Bill Gates at that time. So systematically, the whites have come and they've tried to erase the African psyche. And that's why I said a new mindset, bringing back into place who we actually are, is the beginning. It will surprise you to note, and I know this is from many years ago, because I went to elementary and high school, and we didn't talk about Mansa Musa. We talked about Florida and the Everglades and all of the things that we learned. Teachers, systems, families continue to think that they have a better way of life than we do. And so we are ashamed of who we are in the psychic of our memories. And so we want to point out the West as a better civilization. But I believe we had a better civilization, and that's why they wanted to destroy it and to take from what we have, and are still taking from what we have to build theirs. So the first thing we must do is recognize that we are the greatest that God has created. No one can tell me that I'm not greater than any white person. I don't want to be prejudiced. The fact is, I'm equal to whoever he is, wherever he finds himself. Because I know who I am. I know my lineage. I know the history of my forebears. And I'm a Pan-Africanist. And so I understand where I stand in this point in history. So I use my voice to continue to raise the bar, to continue to speak about who we are, to continue to speak about the need to do a whole about face. And it has to be done from the youngest to the eldest. I know some of our instructors and maybe some of our students here are Islamic, and they begin to teach their religion to their children at 1, as soon as they are able to read and write. Before they are 3 years old, they can recite the entire Quran, because the mind has that capacity. But what are we teaching our children? We're having them watch cartoons that teach Western culture. So we too are part of this system of inculcating our young people to believe that the West is better than what we have. As long as we do that, then we take our eyes off the glory of God on the African continent, on the unlimited blessings that we have on our feet. Some countries don't even know what they have. And so you always see the dry land and you don't know what's underneath it. You say it's better over there. My mother told me at 5 years old, because we lived near a neighbor. We lived in a zinc house because our parents were poor, but they valued education. And so sometimes we would stand on the fence and look in the house next door. They were rich. They had a lawn, that was watered, beautiful house. Their children had beautiful clothes. And so we'll always be tiptoeing and looking at the others. And she called us one day when she recognized what was happening, and she said, "Hey, what are you looking for over there?" We said, "Oh, Mama, it looks like they are living a better life." And she says, "No, they are not. You have just as much as they have. And if you water your field it will become just as green. I've never forgotten that. So we must teach. We must be aware. We must accept our greatness. In our Africanness, we must accept it. And then begin to see what can we do collectively. It is said by one of the greats, I don't remember who, that a nation that continues to elect leaders that are bereft of all of what we've talked about today are themselves bereft. And as a politician, I had a problem initially settling what my mind's state was as compared to what people wanted under my constituency. And it took me a while to get the magic, because people will come to you individually and say, oh, fix my house, send my child to school, you know, all the things that politicians have to deal with. Everybody that dies, everybody that's sick, everybody that needs something you have to provide. So I started wondering, where do they expect me to get such money? So if that pressure continues and you're not careful, you actually go and steal to satisfy the wishes of your people. So do those people never think about, hey, she has a salary of $1,000. How is she doing all of this? Where does she get it from? And that's the consciousness we need to get. Because if you go and you ask someone for something that you know they cannot afford, then they're asking you to be a thief. And then when that person is caught, those who you are supporting come and say, oh, this person is a thief. How did I become that? By the pressure from the people. So there must be a consciousness at both levels. And it took a while. I would go to political meetings, and those who had fixed their houses and sent their children to school would be my greatest critics. And I would go home and say, I've just fixed that man's house now. What is it? And he would be the harshest on me. So I couldn't understand it. And then the Holy Spirit said, politicians are not to do personal favors. They should do things for communities. And so I changed my mindset and began to do community projects, water projects, school projects, whatever it was that would benefit the whole. So that whenever I entered that village, everybody was happy because, oh, she has helped all of us, not one of us. So those of you who talk about the politics, how do people get elected? The same young people who cry for better, who cry for more, who cry for a better system of governance. If they were to sit and to ask the critical questions, most politicians come on the scene without a plan, without an action plan of what they would do. Just on words, glory, and words that will inspire you. You say, okay, there's a great leader. And then they get elected and they don't have a clue, and you don't have a clue. And then both people are disappointed. But Africa is a continent of millennial years. We've lost our systems because it was intentionally done, which was bigger and better, because I believe civilization began here on our continent. Where were the minds of our people? What was the attitude? How did they engage one another to create a civilization that drew people from as far as they came to Africa? Can we get that back? Can we begin to teach our children? Can we begin to teach our sons? Can we begin to show by examples that integrity and respect and character is better than money? Our daughters look on the internet and they see, I like the TikTok. It looks like magic, because you'll get up and you'll see a picture. In a second, someone is not dressed, and in a second, that person is fully dressed. In a second, they're sitting behind a desk. In a second, they own all of this. This is intentional to change and shift the mindset of our young people, thinking that everything is magic. Nothing is magic. Everything takes hard work and commitment and dedication. It took me 20 years to get to where I am today. It didn't happen overnight. And so we must teach our children these values, that we can build the Africa of our dreams if we are just patient. But Africans are eaters of our seed. We eat all of the seed, and when it's time for harvest, then you say, well, I don't have any seed to plant rice. Then you have to go and beg. So that's the mentality. We have now become beggars, and they like it because they brought us simple things like mirrors and gin and crazy things, and we sold our land and gave our brothers into slavery. This is a mentality that is stuck in the fabric of us as humans, as Africans. We must erase that negative memory. We must have our professors go back and check our histories that are in the museums and in the libraries of the West. We must bring them back and teach our people who we are. Once that mindset kicks in, you'll be surprised of what we can build. And so for me, I love Paul Kagame. When you go to this country, you see the positive effect of his leadership, which is what we're talking about. I think the last question was, Professor, do you have the last question? I lost track. Okay, I think I've answered that too. What do we do? It must be deliberate. It must be intentional. It must be consistent. Because this is what changes civilizations and people. Let's go back to the beginning. There's nothing wrong with the beginning. Our children are 3 and 4 and they have all these internet things on telephones. What are they learning? You have people come and paying for our books and they say, oh, we'll print it. Do we even check what's being printed in the books that are printed abroad? They bring LGBT things to us. They bring things that are against our culture, against our way of life. And people just overlook it. Okay, they are books. They've been paid for. Let's just accept it. We are supposed to be gatekeepers of our nations. We must be more circumspect. We must be more intentional. We must be more dedicated to helping create the new generation. I hope I answered your questions.
We'll take one more question from Chief Sam Bolari, the member of the governing BOT of the university. Yes,
sorry to bring you back. I stand on the...
Because you are a member of BOT now, so...
Well, I've listened to 3 brilliant lectures today. That one of the Vice Chancellor, you didn't add it when you were talking. That makes it 3. But I'm going to make this short. When I was young, 10 years old, 12 years old, I was constantly abused, knocked in the head for speaking English. Don't speak vernacular. Don't speak vernacular. That's all we hear in our house. Now, I have the same problem even today in the reverse. My grandchildren now tell me, Grandpa, we don't understand what you are talking about. This paradigm shift that you are talking about is a big thing because I've failed over 60 years. How do we go about it? That's my first question. The other question is that it's one that you brought up and corroborated by my brother Iroko. This spirituality, I've worked in the factory all my life. And I've seen the factories in Ikeja being turned into churches. And that has happened in my generation. And I get really worried about it. I'm now more worried when 2 intellectuals like the 2 of you are now talking of spirituality as the main thing. And by the way, let me tell you too that I make a confession that I am Baba Ijo in my church. But I'm worried about all factories turning into churches. Thank you very much.
And I believe it's a brilliant way to end. Because the issue of spirituality as we knew it in our generations past is not what was brought to us. We were brainwashed into thinking that God is a magician and that all you had to do was sit and worship him and praise him. The Bible tells you that faith without works is dead. But what would they preach? Come and worship him. Spend all your time in the church. How will your children eat? In the Bible it tells us, God has said to each of us, do not pay attention so much to what the preachers say. Find the Bible. Read it yourself. What you read is probably not what you hear every Sunday. The new preachers are now into this, give God and God will give you back. If you do not pay your tithes and offering, you are not getting blessed. Simple. It's a mandate. So we have to go back. We have to read. We have to teach. And that is what the white or our brothers from across, you know, my press secretary is looking at me. He says I'm a maniac. So I have to keep looking and keeping in space. So our brothers from the West brought, they said in order to make us forget the greatness that God had given us, change their mentality, make them believe that they are nothing. And most Africans, it will surprise you, believe that they are nothing and that they deserve nothing. And so that they will wait to die to go to heaven before they get. Is that what the Bible really says? I don't think so. I've read it. That's not what it says. But when they came, they said, okay, don't worry. You have to work now. Don't worry about everything. When you go to heaven, you will benefit. So how do I live here? And so I believe, our Father, we have lost in so many ways. Our children do not know who we are or who we were. So in their minds, our brothers from across the seas are better. Those of us who are a little bit light-skinned are always looked upon as fairer and more beautiful. But I've seen the most beautiful in the blackness of African girls. They are now bleaching their skins and doing all kinds of crazy things to make themselves look like the white women, thinking that it will make them better. There's a real serious psychological problem that we must think about. How do we then begin to teach it from the foundation? And even if our daughters and our sons and daughters are growing up, a conversation about this will help, that people begin to see in actuality. And I always say that God loved us best as Africans. He made us red and yellow, black and white. They are all precious in his sight. Africa has shades of beauty, each one equally beautiful. Can I say I'm more beautiful than a black beauty? No, we are equally beautiful. Instead of a husband or someone saying, oh, you are too dark. The men like fair-skinned women. Where is that thinking? Fair-skinned women. So you now make a woman go bleach or do crazy things. In the end, she's going to get cancer. That beauty should come from within and without, not just on the face. And if your wife is dark-skinned and she ends up being as light as I am, your children wouldn't even recognize her. So there's a whole mentality, mindset that we need to change. And it has to just begin. And we must be truthful. We must speak about the issues as they are. No color coding, no covering up. Let's talk about our ills. Let's discuss it. Let's find new ways to live. That is the only way. Because as long as we continue to look, and though we don't get on those boats and those dinghies and go across the rivers, in our hearts, we want to go to Dubai every year. We want to take our money there and make those people richer. We want to go and ride their rides and see the beauty. Can we not build those things on the African continent? We have more than enough. But everybody longs for something other than what God has given us. It may not be my generation, but if we don't start to talk and think about this in a deeper way and make it a part of our educational system, make it a part of our fabric. In closing, our national anthem pledge used to say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the Republic. I pledge allegiance to the Republic and the flag for which it stands, one nation, under God. In 1986 or 87, that under God was removed. So our children grow up and they're saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and the under God is not there. So they just think that a nation is just something. There's no value attached to the important things that we believe. It must be taught. It must be exemplified. Last but not the least, our fathers are missing. Our fathers are missing. I mean, I would not know how to live if my father had not lived in the house I was. He provided stability. He provided the framework. He provided the vision for the families. And you dare not step outside of what he said because he was the head. That head is missing in many homes. What are we teaching our sons? I don't care how much we as mothers say we are single parents and we are trying to raise our children. We are not the fathers. We are not the head. We have no clue of what it takes to be a man. And so our children are growing up without the understanding of what we should be. So this whole process has to be retaught in a very intentional way. And then maybe, hopefully, in the shortest possible time, all of what we talk about will be a mirage. But what do you show? I love the Nigerians because they come every year and they bring their children. They will go to the villages. They will see the different things that Nigeria is about. Most families don't do that. We are busy losing our children to the West. But it's work in progress. Thank you so much.
We will still have the opportunity to actually celebrate our lecturer. Let me use my fiat as chairman to invite Honorable Akinlaja, who represented my federal constituency. So that,
Your Excellencies.
But let it 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, Your Excellencies. My sister there said, since 1997, African Renaissance by Thabo Mbeki, we have been on it, and every lecture like this, we go home, nothing changed. My view is leadership. It's leadership. In this Ondo State, His Excellency said, pregnancy should not be death penalty to a woman. If you get pregnant, you want to deliver, you need cesarean operation, you don't have money, you will die while your husband is looking for money as a woman. He now said, free education. Women here deliver freely without paying a kobo, whether the husband is rich or poor. And maternal mortality dropped in those states. It's about leadership. If a leader decides something should happen, it will happen. So let us have more people. I'm happy we are speaking in the citadel of education. If all of us here live and go and do something about change, this change will happen. It's about leadership.
Thank you very much.
For that.
And I just want to say one last thing as it relates to what my father just said. Is His Excellency Chief Mike any different from any of us here? Did he go to any different school? Did he have any different training? So what has caused him to build such an institution by himself? And that is the question we all can go home with.
Thank you very much. I will go straight away to Chairman's closing remarks so we can close. Well, I must resist the temptation of trying to answer some questions. But if they are DDG, we will still talk. Because the common thing is that in Nigeria, that we have everything. We have human resources, we have natural resources. Our human resources is defective. Researchers should go and do their research to know the effect of 400 years of slavery on our psychic makeup. We have defective psychic makeup. Unless we do something about it, we are going nowhere. That is why a man will steal more than the money he can spend in 2 generations and we still feel insecure. It's a big issue. Don't let we delude ourselves. We have natural, we got no human resources so properly called. Because your greatest critics today, once you give them power, boom, the story changes. We need to study what has happened to the mindset of the African. The other issue which I really want, then, sir, there's a difference between spirituality and religiosity. There are 2 different entirely. She talked about spirituality. Many people don't know the difference. That is an issue for another day. There are 2 different things. May I disagree with you on Paul Kagame? I will recommend a book written by, you can write it down, it's called Do Not Disturb. It's written by Michelle Arong. He's a British journalist. He has done extensive work on what is going on in Rwanda. If we are not careful when this explosion in Rwanda will take place, the 1994 genocide may be a child's play. So we must be mindful and we must be very careful the leaders we worship and celebrate. The other issue which we ignore at our peril is that, sir, civilization had been a tug of war between two contending forces. They took us as slaves. They colonized us. They changed colonialism to economic colonialism. It is still going on. It's still going on. All the conflict we have in Africa is as a result of our colonial heritage. Until we confront all of this, today look at Africa. Look at the Horn of Africa. I've not done the research, but I'm sure researchers are here. Something tells me that the intensity of internal conflict in Africa is directly proportional to the abundance of natural resources in such countries. I've not done any work, but look at Democratic Republic of Congo with vast resources of cobalt and lithium. The conflict there is so intense that I'm not sure we will ever get out of the place. These are contending forces. Have you asked your question, why Zamfara, the epicenter of gold, is also the epicenter of banditry in Nigeria? All these things are related. These are the contending forces contending for the soul of Africa, Nigeria inclusive. Until we understand all of this and confront them, we'll just be talking grammar. Have you ever asked the question? Our leaders that ask fundamental questions. How do they end? What was the end of Kwame Nkrumah? How did Patrice Lumumba ended? How did he end, rather? How? Recently, Thomas Sankara, how did he end? Go beyond Africa. The contending powers. Allende of Chile, how did he end? These are the realities we must confront. This is why until Africa we sit back, look at our history, clearly define where we want to go, how to go there, collaborate. We are going through a new form of, look, they deceive you, they deceive us. I give an example, and I sit down. They say that the metric they use for debt sustainability is debt to GDP ratio. Does that make sense? When your debt to GDP ratio is 40%, they say no. After all, Germany, debt to GDP ratio is 1,000%. They're still sustainable. They will say America, you borrow in American dollars. America is borrowing his own dollar. When does America pay itself back? When the Americans we borrow in their dollars. We have to pay. We have to pay in dollars. Then we are comparing ourselves to Germany that borrows money, euro in euro. What I'm talking about? Ordinarily in our setting, where we borrow in foreign currency, our metric should be debt to revenue ratio. Simple. If your total revenue is 20 naira, and they say if you say borrow 1,000 naira, is still sustainable, the debt to GDP ratio and all of that. It is part of the trap. They put us in conflict trap, they put us in debt trap. Until you understand all of this, we are going nowhere. It's absolutely important to know. If you know, we have to understand where we are. why we are where we are, to be able to navigate ourselves out of trouble. Look at Nigeria. Look at Nigeria. Anytime we want to do anything meaningful, look at the centrifugal forces pulling Nigeria apart. Ethnic. For example, hypothetical question. Why should Yoruba be in this southwest and others Yoruba in another country? And because they were colonized by the French, they speak French. The Yoruba in Dahomey speak French. The Yoruba in Nigeria speak English. And that is how they have divided Africa. You see Hutus in Burundi, Hutus are in Rwanda. When the Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda are fighting each other, they get assistance from the Hutu in Burundi. And there's conflict all over this country. So we got to understand who we are. And until we have this understanding, we are going nowhere. Remember what I have told you. They will keep deceiving us that we are developing. They will torture statistics and say we are developing. They will tell you growth is galloping at 7%. Growth is galloping, but more women are dying in pregnancy. How can that be development? So these are issues that are fundamental, and we're in an academic environment. These are issues you should research upon in social sciences so that you can come out with how we get out of where we are. Once again, sir, let me just end again by thanking you. She said it, that ordinarily our best and brightest should be in politics. But in Nigeria, it's now getting worse and worse. The political space is being taken over, whether you like it or not, by the yahoos of this world. So it's going to be getting worse and worse and worse. And Elizade, if he contests election, he may not have won election. But look at what he has been able to do to show capacity. So it's a very complex problem, and I'm sure we will never give up. You said it, that leadership is about never giving up. We will not give up. The young men must not give up. Whether we like it or not, the future belongs to you. You must not give up. You must look at these issues. You must understand them critically. Bob Marley said, I leave you with that. Deep words is the greatest height of power today. The power disparity in the world today is nuclear bomb. That is the greatest instrument of power disparity. That is why Russia is bombing Ukraine. Ukraine cannot bomb Russia back. You can only be defending yourself. It's power. But Bob Marley sang. He said, do not be afraid of atomic bomb. None of them can change time. What will change time in Africa is what she has said. Is the spirituality. And God will give us grace. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the chairman of today's occasion, the former governor of Ondo State, our own Iroko. Thank you very much, sir. Please, we have the chairman, Winners Guest House, and Kura Engineer Sheikh Molotu. Where are you? Please, we appreciate your coming. The chiefs, male and female, àwọn olóyè kábíyèsí ní Ìlaramọ̀kín, akínyìn o, Mr. Adero Ojuoko, sorry, Toyota Nigeria Limited. And again, we want to thank our mama. Your Excellency, I could say that you are kneeling down already. You do this. This is part of Yoruba culture. Thank you very much. Yeye Korede of Ìlaramọ̀kín, ẹ bá mi pàtẹ́wọ́ fún wọn. So, wọ́n ti fún wa ní lecture. Her Excellency, Honorable Chief Dr. Omabonike Joel Howard Taylor. I've just given you another name. Unto whom much is given, much is expected.
I'm sorry. 1 minute. I want all of us to rise and just appreciate this wonderful jewel of Africa. She's a jolly good fellow. She's a jolly good fellow.
she's a jolly good fellow. I say all of us, and so say all of us, hooray! And so says all of us, hooray! For she's a jolly good fellow. For she's a jolly good fellow. So she's a jolly good fellow. I say all of us. Hey, hey, hey. Hooray. Thank you very much. Unto whom much is given, much is expected. We, the entire authorities of Elizade University, would like to appreciate Your Excellency, Yeye Korede of Ilaramoki, and Your Excellency, the immediate past governor of Ondo State. And to do justice to that, I have to call on the registrar, Ebon. Madam Olulu, Tabat Sheton. And I would like to call on the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Professor Emeritus Bamero. Emma Bodadi. Yes, I humbly call on. I humbly call on His Excellency, Dr. Olusegun Mimeko, to please come forward first. Vice Chancellor. Daddy, sir, please, I want you to join them here, sir. Thank you.
Well, let's see. Well, on behalf of the university, Elizade University, the founder, the council, staff, and students, you agree with me that this has been a fantastic convocation lecture. At least I must have attended not less than 20, 25 convocation lectures. I think this one stands out. Not only the convocation lecturer that we appreciate, but this is the convocation that I will even see that this is like 2 convocation lectures in one. And who has made it 2 in 1? But our own Iroko. And I would like, on behalf, to show our appreciation by presenting this to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency. You may go and sit down. Please, others will remain standing with due respect. Daddy, please don't go yet. I want to call on Yeye Korede of Ilaramoki. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Honorable Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor. Please, let's give her a resounding round of applause. Eba mi fún màmá yìí ní àtẹ̀wọ́ ní NAFDAC number.
Well, again, on behalf of the founder, the governing council, the university management, staff, and students, we really feel greatly honored. Actually, when I personally got to know that we'll be getting a whole vice president of Liberia to come and give the convocation lecture, he will confirm that. I said, wow, are you ready to handle all the protocols and all? But something, kept telling him that there must have been a reason why you would go all the way to Liberia to bring a convocation lecturer. honestly, even if you are beyond America somewhere, we'll be ready to bring you. Not even, Liberia is too near. In terms of what you have given today, I mean, the real passion, you know, the way you really, I mean, marshal all your points, surely the message, I mean, I was asking the registrar that I hope that we'll be getting copies of the lecture.
Yes, yes.
Okay? We must get copies of the lecture, I mean, distributed widely, because, I mean, you have a powerful message in there. We are indeed really grateful. You've really made this convocation, you know, I mean, a special one, the 6 and 7, and we continue to, refer to this convocation lecture. I pity who will be bringing next, because we will not forget this last tomorrow. We keep comparing, but surely you have really left us with, I mean, as we wish you, you know, safe your journey back. I mean, we have been, I think we have been informed that you are having an election there, over there too.
Next year, though.
Next year.
October.
In October.
The campaign is already on.
Well, we can say that, I mean, not forgetting the spiritual side. I mean, by the time you will be coming back to. So, once again, thank you very much, as we wish you safe journey back, you know, to Liberia.
So I hand this over. Second part.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We are very, very grateful.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Well, to the glory of God Almighty, we have come this far, and as this hall is filled to its capacity, the spirituality aspect of it is that the Lord does not allow medical doctors to perform their job here. Nobody is rushed out, no emergency. We give glory to God of that. To appreciate all of us, I hand over to the Registrar and Secretary to Council, my mentor, Omolulu Adegbenro, to do justice to this. The Registrar.
On behalf of the founder of Elizade University, Chief Michael Adeojo, Officer of the Order of the Niger, I want to express deep appreciation to all those who have found time, out of seemingly no time, to be here today, to be part of this epoch-making event. In particular, I want to thank Her Excellency, the Vice President of Liberia, Yeye Korede of Ilaramokin, Her Excellency, Dr. Chief Mrs. Joel Howard Taylor, for accepting to come to Ilaramokin to give this lecture. Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming. Let me especially thank the chairman of this occasion, the immediate past governor of our state, the Sunshine State, the Iroko himself, a medical doctor by training and a politician by calling. Just about 3 weeks ago, I put a call across to him, and I said, Your Excellency, sir, could you do us the honor of coming to Ilaramokin today to be the chairman at this convocation lecture? And he said, no problem. As a matter of fact, he had to cancel his flight to Abuja today to be here. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for coming. Let me not forget to thank our Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Emeritus Professor Olufemi Bamiro, for always identifying with us in this university. Same goes to all members of Council, in particular the immediate past Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Professor Eyitope Ogunbodede, Mr. Ari Aladetimi, Mr. Bode Adediji, and we have a distinguished member of the Board of Trustees, Chief Sam Bolalide, here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. I thank our Royal Majesty, the Allah of Ilaramokin, and the visiting King from our kingdom. Thank you very much, Kabiyesi, for coming. I want to thank all our days who are here, all academic staff, non-teaching staff. Oh, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi is also a member of council. Thank you, my sister, for coming. Bashorun Sende Arugofa, Chief Femi Aluko, Chief Soya Onyison, and a host of others. Our religious leaders, Venerable Timothy Ope Kujero, Baba Adetiba is also here. Thank you very much, all staff and students. But let me finally thank our founder and his wife. Chief Michael Adeojo is indeed the Ààrẹ Atayese of Ilaramokin. The chairman did refer to Ilara. He said something that some years ago, Ilara was nowhere. But today, Ilaramokin is a force to reckon with, courtesy of Chief Michael Adeojo. And I call him the architect of modern Ilaramokin. Thank you very much, sir, for all you have done and continue to do. Let me also thank his amiable wife, who yesterday almost succeeded in getting the Deji of Akure to confer a chief transit title on. But there was a little coup. I thought the Deji was going to cooperate with me, but unfortunately, this did not happen. Even after everybody had said what I said was approved, that they should confer a chief transit title on her, but the Deji simply said, Olori ni now, Olori also is chief transit title. Mrs. Taiwo Adeojo, thank you very much, ma'am, for always being there for us. And let me thank two women are sitting together. One is Yinka, the other Comfort. Now, Mrs. Yinka is the wife of the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council. And she's sitting next to the wife of the Vice Chancellor, Mrs. Comfort Amond. Thank you very much, Maz. The Honorable Justice Folashade Aguda Taiwo, you're always there. Thank you very much. The immediate past Vice Chancellor of Olusegun Agagu University of Science and Technology, Professor Elsar Ogudu, you are most welcome. All our physical it starts at 10. Our 10 is not 11. Please make it a day with us tomorrow. God bless you. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Yes, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this program. Shall we please stand? We take the anthems in reverse order. Elizade University anthem, Liberia anthem, and of course, the national Nigerian anthem. Thank you.
Time
Please, I crave indulgence to please keep standing as the procession will be in reverse order here. And the photograph outside. Thank you. Good evening all and good night. Please.